most recent Prime Minister's questions, Boris Johnson parroted a far-right conspiracy theory that has no basis in fact, that Keir Starmer somehow protected Jimmy Savile from being prosecuted for his horrific crimes when Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions. Now that's total rubbish. That has no basis in fact. And any decisions sort of made around that case weren't even made by Starmer at all anyway. But Johnson has doubled down on that. Several of his cabinet ministers have doubled down on it. Michael Gove, Dominic Raab, for examples. He's refused to withdraw the comment and he's refused to apologise. And now the consequences are laid bare. Keir Starmer and David Lammy were mobbed by a group of protesters. As of the time I'm recording this, it was today, but by the time this gets out, it might have been a day or two ago. But they were mobbed by these protesters. David Lammy, of course, a member of the Shadow Cabinet. He's been a very outspoken Labour MP for a long time, even when he was a backbencher. And the police sort of were pushing these protesters away, but it was it's pretty grim to watch. So take a look and we'll talk about it.
Mr. Starmer, why haven't you been opposing the government? Isn't your job leader of the opposition? Why aren't you opposing Mr. Starmer? Mr. Starmer, Mr. Starmer, why aren't you opposing? Your job is leader of the opposition. Why aren't you opposing the government? Why aren't you standing up for our constitution? Why aren't you standing up for the Labour, for the working class man? Why have you betrayed? What happened to the working man, Mr. Starmer? What about the working class? Is this a Labour Party? Or the party of the elite? Why have your party allowed our Magna Carta, our rights, our common law to be ignored? Why did you go after Julian Assange? Why did you go after a journalist, Mr. Starmer? Why did you go after Julian Assange? Mr. Starmer, why did you target a journalist?
Traitor! Don't take the bus. Don't take the project. Fucking traitor!
Why did you go after Julian Assange?
You can hear in that video people saying things like traitor and saying that Keir Starmer protects paedophiles and saying things about Jimmy Savile and things like that. So that far-right conspiracy theory, that lie that has been perpetuated by really very sinister people and organisations online, organisations that are, neo-fascists and neo-Nazis, that is now being shouted at the leader of the opposition, at the leader of the Labour Party, right to his face, and another member of the Shadow Cabinet. They're being threatened, and someone in the video does say something like, "You should be hung," or something. So it's very, very, very dangerous to be to allow these kind of conspiracy theories to circulate and to float, to grow online. But the bare minimum that a politician can do is condemn them and not say those things as if they are fact. And Boris Johnson has failed at the bare minimum, as he always does when it comes to issues of public service. All the time he fails, right? But in this instance, it's really dangerous. It really is dangerous. And to be fair, it is in many instances when you're the Prime Minister. But yeah, it's really dangerous. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this issue started to heat up more since Boris Johnson parroted that far-right talking point, parroted that conspiracy theory, and spoke about it in the Houses of Parliament. And he has to bear responsibility for this, and it's received condemnation across the aisle. So a former Conservative whip, I believe it was, or policy advisor, has condemned it. Nicola Sturgeon, the SNP leader and the First Minister of Scotland, she said, any politician choosing to weaponise online conspiracy theories against opponents knows fine well that they risk stirring up the kind of hate and abuse that Keir Starmer experienced today. If he has any decency at all, the PM will now apologise unreservedly. David Lammy tweeted about it. He said, no surprise, the conspiracy theorist thugs who harassed Keir Starmer and I repeated slurs we heard from Boris Johnson last week at the dispatch box. Intimidation, harassment and lies have no place in our democracy, and they won't ever stop me doing my job. And of course, Boris Johnson himself has actually responded to the situation, and he tweeted this. The behaviour directed at the Leader of the Opposition tonight is absolutely disgraceful. All forms of harassment of our elected representatives are completely unacceptable. I thank the police for responding swiftly. So notice there, Boris Johnson has sort of condemned the intimidation, but he hasn't apologised and he hasn't withdrawn his comments. Now, if you're not going to do either of those, your apology is not worth very much, is it? I mean, this guy is now endangering the lives of his colleagues, and people warned him about that when he became Prime Minister, when he won the 2019 election with a big majority. People warned him that he needed to change his tone. He needed to really think very carefully about what he was saying and really rein in the lies, and try not to deceive people so much and spout a bunch of nonsense. And he just hasn't done that. In fact, it's almost like he's amplified it, right? Or at least it feels like he's amplified it because he's in the public eye all the time and he's the Prime Minister, so he's talking to the public a lot and all this stuff. So we are really in a very, very dark place as a country, because the leader of the Labour Party and a member of the Shadow Cabinet are being threatened by far-right nutters who believe sincerely that Keir Starmer protected Jimmy Savile when he was Director of Public Prosecutions. And when we lose sight of an objective truth in politics, which has already been something that's been happening, this sort of decline of a consensus about what is even real, what is fact and what is fiction in most developed democracies, that's been happening for a while now, but it seems to be getting worse, and the rate at which it's getting worse seems to be accelerating, especially in America, where, like 30% of Americans don't even believe Joe Biden legitimately won the presidential election in 2020. But in Britain, we're not loads better, and this is a testament to that. The Prime Minister can spout conspiracy theories, can rile up dangerous kinds of people and lie repeatedly to the public, be constantly swamped in corruption scandals. It can be someone who breaks the law, who laughs in the face of the general public, who implements policies that impoverish and hurt millions of people, someone who disregards the advice of scientists and public health officials. It can be someone who cares much more about their ultra-wealthy donors and their rich mates than the well-being of ordinary people, working people, middle-class families. It can be someone who doesn't even understand the fundamentals of how the economy works, or indeed have any care for if it serves most people, care more about the stock market and hedge funds more than they do about wages and public services. And someone who, despite the fact that we held a climate conference in this country very recently, offered very little to the world in the form of leadership to tackle climate change and mitigate biodiversity collapse and ecosystem collapse. You can do that now. You can just be an awful, awful human being, a liar, a cheat, and someone who will do anything to cling on to power, including siding with neo-Nazis in the form of a conspiracy theory. That's the kind of people we have in politics right now. And let's be clear, the ones who are defending him, Rishi Sunak and Michael Gove and Dominic Raab and Liz Truss and Nadine Dorries, all the rest of them, right? They are complicit in this. And it's just disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And I know you guys already know that, right? But there you go. It's good that Boris Johnson has condemned it. He's called the harassment absolutely disgraceful, but he's not taking back the comments that he made, legitimising a neo-fascist conspiracy theory, a far-right lie. He said it as if it were truth in the House of Commons, and then he doubled down on it, refused to withdraw it, and refused to apologise, and he's been backed up by several cabinet ministers. He has to apologise, he has to withdraw that comment, he has to admit that it was wrong, and he has to resign. And then we need to have sweeping reforms of the political system and economic system in this country to stop liars and charlatans and corrupt politicians from continuing to be the norm in this country, because I don't know how much longer, you know, we can go on like this as a country, really. But fair play to David Lammy and Keir Starmer, who remained composed the whole time. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. You know, what can we do to tackle this kind of hate and these kind of lies and, you know, misinformation and stuff? I'd really like to know. So yeah, leave your comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.